The Colosseum, also known as the Flavian Amphitheatre, is an iconic symbol of imperial Rome. Its construction began under the Emperor Vespasian in AD 72 and was completed in AD 80 under his successor and heir, Titus. Further modifications were made during the reign of Domitian from 81 to 96. The Colosseum could hold, it is estimated, between 50,000 and 80,000 spectators, having an average audience of some 65,000. It was used for gladiatorial contests and public spectacles such as mock sea battles, animal hunts, executions, reenactments of famous battles and dramas based on classical mythology. The building ceased to be used for entertainment in the early medieval era. It was later reused for such purposes as housing, workshops, quarters for a religious order, a fortress, a quarry, and a Christian shrine. The Colosseum is situated just east of the Roman Forum. Construction began in AD 72 and was completed in AD 80. The Colosseum was constructed with several different materials. Travertine blocks were used for the load-bearing pillars, and external walls, stairs, and radial walls were constructed from blocks and bricks of tufa. Arches and vaults supported the structure solidly. The Colosseum's huge crowd capacity made it essential that the venue could be filled or evacuated quickly. Its architects adopted solutions very similar to those used in modern stadiums to deal with the same problem. The amphitheatre was ringed by 80 entrances at ground level, 76 of which were used by ordinary spectators. Each entrance and exit was numbered, as was each staircase. The northern main entrance was reserved for the Roman emperor and his aides, while the other 3 axial entrances were most likely used by the elite. All 4 axial entrances were richly decorated with painted stucco reliefs, of which fragments survive. The Colosseum's design and construction techniques were highly advanced for its time. The amphitheatre was built in a valley between the Caelian, Esquiline and Palatine hills, on the site of a drained lake that was part of Nero's park. The artificial lake was drained, and the area was chosen because it was flat and well suited to the massive structure. The Colosseum was built with a combination of concrete and stone, and it was the largest amphitheatre ever built at the time. The outer wall was made of travertine stone, which was quarried in Tivoli, about 20 miles east of Rome. The stone was transported to the site using a complex system of pulleys and cranes. The Colosseum's outer wall was originally 157 feet high and was composed of 3 stories of arched entrances, a total of around 80 arches per story, plus an attic story. Each story contained columns of a different order or style. The bottom story was done in the simple Doric order, the middle in Ionic, and the top in the ornate Corinthian. The attic story was decorated with Corinthian pilasters and punctuated by small rectangular windows. The top of the outer wall originally had a series of large bronze shields, and the uppermost part of the building was fitted with sockets to support the 240 wooden masts that held up the Valerian, or awning. This awning was used to protect spectators from the sun and rain. The Colosseum's interior was just as impressive as its exterior. The arena itself was 83 meters by 48 meters, or 272 feet by 157 feet. It comprised a wooden floor covered by sand. The Latin word for sand is harina or arena, covering an elaborate underground structure called the hypogeum, which literally means underground. Little now remains of the original arena floor, but the hypogeum is still clearly visible. The hypogeum was an elaborate network of tunnels and cages beneath the arena where gladiators and animals were held before contests began. It had 80 vertical shafts that provided instant access to the arena for caged animals and scenery pieces. concealed underneath. Larger hinged platforms called hegmata provided access for elephants and other large animals. The hypogeum was connected by underground tunnels to a number of points outside the Colosseum. Gladiators and animals were brought through the tunnels from nearby barracks, the Ludus Magnus, and the animal pens, the vivarium, respectively. The hypogeum also contained two major corridors, which ran the length of the arena and were used to transport animals and performers to the arena. The Colosseum's seating was arranged in a tiered system that reflected the rigidly stratified nature of Roman society. Special boxes were provided at the north and south ends, respectively, for the emperor and the Vestal Virgins, providing the best views of the arena. Flanking them at the same level was a broad platform or podium for the senatorial class, who were allowed to bring their own chairs. The tier above the senators, the Maenianum Primum, was occupied by the non-senatorial noble class or knights, also known as equites. The next level up, the Maenianum Secundum, was originally reserved for ordinary Roman citizens or plebeians, and was divided into two sections. The lower part, called the Imum, was for wealthy citizens, while the upper part, the Summum, was for poor citizens. Specific sectors were provided for other social groups, for instance, boys with their tutors, soldiers on leave, foreign dignitaries, scribes, heralds, priests, and so on. Stone seating was provided for the citizens and nobles, while wooden benches were provided for the lower classes and women. Inscriptions identified the areas reserved for specific groups. Another level, the Maenianum Secundum in Legnice, was added at the very top of the building during the reign of Domitian. This consisted of a gallery for the common poor, slaves, and women. It would have been either standing room only or had very steep wooden benches. The Colosseum was used for various public spectacles. The most famous events were the gladiatorial games, where armed combatants fought to the death. These games were often brutal and bloody, but they were also highly popular with the Roman public. Other events included animal hunts, where exotic animals such as lions, elephants, and bears were pitted against each other or against human combatants. The Colosseum also hosted mock sea battles, where the arena was flooded with water and ships would engage in naval combat. These events were highly elaborate and required a great deal of planning and resources. The Colosseum was also used for public executions, where criminals were put to death in various gruesome ways. These executions were often staged as reenactments of famous battles or mythological scenes. The Colosseum was also used for dramas based on classical mythology. These dramas were often highly elaborate and featured complex sets and costumes. The Colosseum was a place of great spectacle and entertainment, but it was also a place of great violence and death. The Colosseum's use as an entertainment venue declined in the early medieval era. By the 6th century, the arena was no longer used for gladiatorial combat, and the last recorded games were held in the early 5th century. The Colosseum was later used for various purposes, including housing, workshops, and quarters for a religious order. It was also used as a fortress and a quarry, with much of its stone being removed for other building projects. Despite its decline, the Colosseum remained an iconic symbol of Rome and a testament to the engineering and architectural prowess of the ancient Romans. Today, the Colosseum is one of the most popular tourist attractions in the world, drawing millions of visitors each year. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and a symbol of the enduring legacy of the Roman Empire.